Hi, I'm Alice. Today I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. You know how people say that some days just start like any other? Well, that Wednesday definitely felt normal. I had no idea it would be the day everything would change. I'd been working as an executive assistant at Maxwell Industries for 3 years. The pay was decent, but the hours were brutal. My boss, Richard Maxwell, was brilliant but demanding. A self-made billionaire who expected perfection from everyone, especially me. "Alice, did you reschedule the Parker meeting?" Richard asked, rushing past my desk that morning. "Yes, Mr. Maxwell. It's set for next Tuesday at 10. I've already prepared the presentation materials and sent them to the team." He nodded without looking up from his tablet. "And the Henderson contract?" "Legal returned it this morning with their suggested revisions. The marked-up copy is on your desk, and I've scheduled a call with Henderson's people for tomorrow." Richard finally glanced at me, his expression softening slightly. Good work. That was high praise from a man who rarely acknowledged anyone's efforts. I smiled, but before I could respond, his phone rang. "That's Victoria," he said, looking at the caller ID. "I need to take this." Victoria Chambers was our chief financial officer. Beautiful, ruthless, and Richard's right hand for the past 5 years. Everyone in the company knew she was gunning for the COO position that had just opened up. "Maxwell," Richard answered sharply, ducking into his office. My colleague Mark leaned over from the next desk. "How's life with the dragon today?" I rolled my eyes. "The usual. He's actually been decent this morning." "Miracles do happen," Mark laughed. "Hey, we're grabbing lunch at that new place around the corner. Want to join?" "Can't. Too much to finish before the board meeting tomorrow." Mark shook his head. "All work and no play makes Alice a dull girl." "Better dull than unemployed," I quipped. Just then, Richard burst from his office. "Alice, I need the Merino portfolio immediately. And where are the projection reports?" "Already uploaded to your tablet, sir. The Merino files are in the blue folder I placed in your briefcase this morning." He blinked, momentarily thrown off. "Right. I'm heading to meet with Diana. Be back by 3. Diana was Richard's sister and the company's head of legal. They rarely met during business hours, which made this unusual. "Of course. Your 3:30 with accounting is confirmed," I reminded him. He was already halfway to the elevator, waving dismissively over his shoulder. Mark whistled. "How do you keep track of his life better than he does?" "It's my job," I shrugged. The office quieted after lunch. I was deep in spreadsheets when I noticed something on Richard's desk. His personal phone. He must have forgotten it in his rush. That was when everything changed. The phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen showed James C. I hesitated, but Richard was meeting with several potential investors that afternoon. It could be important. "Mr. Maxwell's phone, this is Alice speaking." "Who?" a man's voice demanded. "Where's Victoria?" "I'm sorry, Victoria isn't here. This is Mr. Maxwell's assistant. He forgot his phone. Can I help you?" There was a pause. "No, just tell Victoria I called." Before I could ask why Victoria would answer Richard's personal phone, the caller hung up. Strange. I placed the phone down, feeling uneasy. 5 minutes later, it buzzed with a text from the same number. "V-wire complete. Maxwell knows nothing. Berlin files secured. Proceed with the board takedown tomorrow." My heart pounded. What was this about? The board meeting was tomorrow, and takedown sounded ominous. I shouldn't read my boss's texts, but this seemed serious. The phone buzzed again. "If Maxwell gets those original contracts, everything falls apart. Make sure they're gone." I stared at the screen, mind racing. Victoria and someone named James were planning something against Richard involving missing contracts? For the board meeting tomorrow? I knew Victoria had been acting strangely lately, taking calls in the stairwell and staying late when Richard wasn't around. I'd dismissed it as stress from the upcoming COO decision. Now I wasn't so sure. When my desk phone rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. "Alice, it's Diana. Is my brother back yet?" "No, Miss Maxwell. He's still out." "When he returns, tell him to call me immediately. It's about Victoria and some financial discrepancies I've found." My mouth went dry. Financial discrepancies. Just tell him to call me, Diana said tersely, then hung up. The pieces started connecting in my mind. Victoria was our CFO. If Diana found financial problems, and these texts mentioned wire transfers and missing contracts. The elevator dinged, and I quickly put Richard's phone back where I found it. Victoria walked in, looking immaculate as always in her designer suit. "Is Richard in?" she asked coolly. "No, he's meeting with investors until 3. She nodded, eyes scanning the office. "I need something from his desk. I'm afraid I can't let you go through Mr. Maxwell's things without his permission," I said carefully. Victoria's perfect eyebrow arched. "Excuse me? I'm the CFO. I need the original Henderson contracts for tomorrow's board meeting." The Henderson contracts. The same ones mentioned in the text. "Mr. Maxwell has them with him," I lied smoothly. They were actually locked in his desk drawer. "He was reviewing them before the meeting." Victoria's face tightened almost imperceptibly. "Fine. Tell him I need them when he returns." After she left, I pulled out my own phone and texted Mark. "Need your help. Urgent. Meet me in the file room in 5. When I showed Mark the texts I'd photographed, his eyes widened. "Holy crap, Alice, this is serious." "I know. Diana called about financial discrepancies, and now Victoria wants the original Henderson contracts." "What are you going to do?" "I'm not sure yet. This is way above my pay grade." Mark leaned against the filing cabinet. "You could just pretend you never saw anything. Not your circus, not your monkeys, right?" I shook my head. "I can't do that. Richard may be demanding, but he's always been fair. I can't stand by while Victoria destroys everything he's built." "Then what's the plan? Go to the police?" "With what evidence? Texts I shouldn't have read on a phone that isn't mine?" Mark rubbed his chin. "Good point. But someone needs to warn Richard before tomorrow's board meeting." I took a deep breath. "I'm going to save Richard's company. First," I called Diana back. "Miss Maxwell, I may have information about those discrepancies you mentioned." "What kind of information?" she asked cautiously. I explained about the texts and Victoria's strange behavior. Diana was silent for a moment. "This confirms my suspicions. The Henderson deal numbers don't match our records. Victoria's been manipulating the books, but I needed proof of intent." "What should we do?" "Nothing yet. Let me speak with my brother first." When Richard returned, I intercepted him before he reached his office. "Sir, you forgot your phone. Also, Victoria came looking for the Henderson contracts, and your sister called. It's urgent." Richard frowned. "Give me 5 minutes, then come in." When I entered his office, Diana was already on speakerphone. "Alice, tell my brother what you told me," Diana directed. I recounted everything. The strange call, the texts, Victoria's request for the contracts. Richard's face darkened with each word. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" "The texts are still on your phone," I said. "And the calls from James C. are in your log." Richard checked his phone, jaw tightening. "James Carlyle, Victoria's former colleague from Goldman. They've been working on something behind my back for months." "The board meeting tomorrow," Diana said. "They're planning to present false financial data to force you out." "But why?" I asked. "Victoria wants my job," Richard said grimly. "And apparently Carlyle's firm wants to acquire us at a discount after the stock tanks." "The Berlin files must be the real financial records," Diana suggested. "If we can find those—" "I have an idea," I interrupted. Both Maxwells looked at me in surprise. "Sorry, but I think I know how to trap them." "I'm listening," Richard said, leaning forward. "Victoria doesn't know that I answered your phone or saw those texts," I explained. "What if we let her proceed with her plan but secretly prepare our own presentation with the correct numbers?" Diana's voice came through the speaker. "That could work, but we need those Berlin files." "Victoria has been working late in her office," I said, "using a computer in the executive suite." "Our systems back up automatically every night," Richard mused, catching on. "Diana, can you access Victoria's workstation remotely?" I can have our IT security team do it discreetly, Diana replied. Richard turned to me. Alice, I'm trusting you with this. It's not in your job description, and I wouldn't blame you for walking away. Sir, in 3 years, I've seen you build this company from nothing. You've given opportunities to hundreds of people, including me. I'm not walking away. Richard's expression softened. Thank you, Alice. The next day, I arrived early to prepare. Richard had given me clear instructions, and everything needed to be perfect. The board members began arriving at 9:30. Victoria appeared last, cool and confident with a leather portfolio under her arm. Good morning, Victoria. I greeted her pleasantly. Coffee before the meeting? No time, she replied dismissively. Is Richard here yet? In his office. He asked not to be disturbed before the meeting. Victoria nodded and headed toward the boardroom. I slipped into Richard's office through the side door. She's here, I told him, with the portfolio, just as you predicted. Richard looked grimmer than I'd ever seen him. Let's proceed. The board meeting began precisely at 10 o'clock. I wasn't usually invited, but today Richard had requested my presence to take minutes. Victoria seemed annoyed but didn't object. Before we begin, Richard announced, I'd like to address some concerning information that's come to my attention. Victoria shifted slightly in her seat. It appears that someone has been manipulating our financial data, Richard continued. Specifically, the Henderson and Marino contracts. The board members murmured among themselves. Victoria's face remained impassive. What evidence do you have of this, Richard? Asked Walter Gaines, the head of the board. My sister discovered discrepancies in our reporting. The numbers Victoria provided don't match the original contracts. All eyes turned to Victoria, who smiled confidently. That's a serious accusation, Richard. Perhaps Diana misread the figures. I have the accurate reports right here. She opened her portfolio. Before you share those, Richard said calmly, I should mention that I received some interesting texts yesterday. Victoria froze. Richard read the messages aloud. The boardroom fell silent. These were sent to my personal phone, he finished. From James Carlyle to you, Victoria. Care to explain? Victoria's composure cracked. I don't know what you're talking about. Someone must have fabricated those texts. The Berlin files, Diana interjected. Where are they, Victoria? This is absurd. You have no proof of anything. Richard nodded toward me. I stepped forward and placed a USB drive on the table. Actually, we do. Victoria's eyes widened. What is that? After you left last night, I remembered something strange, I explained. For weeks, you've been staying late using the CFO's computer in the executive suite, a computer that automatically backs up to our secure server. You had no right, Victoria began. As head of IT security, I had every right, Diana cut in, especially when financial fraud is suspected. The Berlin files were hidden deep in your drive, I continued, along with emails between you and James Carlyle detailing your plan to manipulate our financial data, tank our stock, and help Carlyle's firm acquire us cheaply. After which you would be installed as CEO, Richard finished. Victoria's face contorted with rage. You wouldn't have found anything if your nosy assistant hadn't answered your phone. The admission hung in the air. Victoria realized her mistake too late. Security is waiting outside, Richard said quietly. The FBI has been notified. Victoria stood up, knocking her chair backward. You can't do this to me. I built this company with you, Richard. No, Victoria, Richard replied firmly. You were well compensated for your work. That didn't give you the right to steal what wasn't yours. And what about her? Victoria pointed at me accusingly. Reading private messages? That's illegal. Walter Gaines cleared his throat. Miss Chambers, I suggest you leave quietly. Your legal concerns can be addressed with the authorities. Victoria turned to the board members, desperate now. You don't understand. Maxwell Industries is failing. Richard's leadership is outdated. The Carlyle acquisition was the best option for shareholders. That will be for the courts to decide, Richard said. Board members, I apologize for this disruption. We'll reconvene tomorrow with accurate financials. As Victoria was escorted out, she turned to me, eyes burning. This isn't over, Alice. You think you've won, but you have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I do, I replied calmly. A desperate woman who thought she was smarter than everyone else. Turns out you weren't. In the aftermath, everything changed. Victoria and James Carlyle were arrested for fraud, wire fraud, and corporate espionage. The evidence was overwhelming. A month later, Richard called me into his office. Alice, your quick thinking saved this company from disaster. I smiled. Just doing my job, sir. Well, your job is changing. I'd like to offer you the position of Chief of Staff. You've more than earned it. My jaw dropped. Chief of Staff? That's a massive promotion. With a salary to match, Richard said, plus stock options. Diana and I agree. We need someone we can trust at the executive level. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Richard smiled. You've proven yourself in ways I never expected. You saw a problem, you took initiative, and you acted with integrity. What about Mark? I asked. He helped me figure things out. Already offered him a position in our security department, Richard said. He starts next week. I couldn't believe how much had changed. What happened with Carlyle's firm? Their stock plummeted when the news broke, Richard said with satisfaction. They're facing a shareholder lawsuit of their own now. Sometimes karma works fast. Later that day, I received a message from Victoria's lawyer. She wanted to meet, to apologize and explain herself. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me was curious about her reasons, her justifications. Another part wondered if there was something genuine in her request. Then I remembered her face when she was caught, the venom in her threat. Some people only apologize when they have no other options. I declined. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, some people don't deserve second chances. Mark found me in my new office. Yes, I had my own office now, staring out at the city skyline. How's life at the top? He grinned. Different, I admitted. But good. Victoria's preliminary hearing is next week. Are you going? I shook my head. No need. I'm looking forward, not back. She's been trying to contact people from the company, Mark said, perching on the edge of my desk. Saying she was set up, that you and Richard conspired against her. Let her talk, I said. The evidence speaks for itself. Diana thinks she'll try to plea bargain, Mark continued. Offer up Carlyle for a reduced sentence? That sounds like Victoria, I smiled, always looking for an angle. You know, Mark said thoughtfully, a year ago you would have been terrified to even speak up in a meeting. Now look at you. I laughed. Turns out, when you catch someone trying to destroy your boss's company, it builds confidence. It's more than that, Mark insisted. You found your voice, your power. Maybe he was right. Standing up to Victoria had changed me. I wasn't just Richard's assistant anymore, the person who anticipated his needs and faded into the background. I'd made a difference, saved a company, stopped the bad guys. And I was just getting started. Richard wants me to present at the next leadership conference, I told Mark. Share our story as a case study in corporate security. From answering phones to keynote speaker, Mark whistled. Not bad, Alice, not bad at all. And I was. Sometimes saving someone else's life means saving your own too. Richard's forgotten phone changed everything. For him, for the company, and most importantly, for me. So tell me, what would you have done if you'd found those messages? Would you have confronted Victoria directly or done exactly what I did? Comment below with your answer.